Hi and welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, well, we're back working on the XV-02 from Tamiya, the rally chassis that was released about 5 months ago now. Yes, how long it's taken for me to get round to it. Now, I've already built up the chassis and done a video on that and an unboxing. So if you haven't seen those, I'll put a link up here. Go check that out. But on this episode, we're going to be cutting out the body, painting it up, and then fitting these decals. Yeah. So stay tuned, it's going to be a bit tough, but I'm pretty sure by the end of it, it's going to look amazing. Hit it, Charlie! So we've got to fit some electronics in it. In the previous video, I put in this brushless, sensorless motor that I had lying around, and I was going to put my Futaba in it because that's what I had free. But I've managed to free up the Hobby Wing combo, which is the 3652, super powerful, loads of power for this, and a Hobby Wing Max 10 ESC. So I've got that, so that is perfect. So I'm going to swap this out in a bit. Also, I'm going to use my Radiolink receiver that came with my new Radiolink RC8X transmitter, which I'm getting my head around. It's got so many features and functions, it takes a bit of a while. This will be on the show for a full review, but I really wanted to dig into it to make up my opinions of what I think before doing a video on it. So that'll be coming soon if you're interested. Also, I've cut out the body, so we're pretty much ready to go, masking off, cleaning up. So that was pretty straightforward, not a difficult body to cut out, so it didn't take really long, so I did that off camera, as well as putting the holes together in the back to get this massive wing to fit. One tip I can give you is how to cut out the rear oval holes at the back. First, pierce 2 holes, one in front of the other. Next, ream them out just like a normal body mount. Then remove some of the side excess using a sharp knife. Don't have to go right to the line at this point, we're going to deal with that soon. Next, take a round file and finish off the round edges at the front and the rear. To get them perfect, you can also use a flat file to do the sides. Take your time and you can end up with perfect body mounts. Now, painting is pretty much white and black, so it shouldn't be too difficult, but the decals, that's where the time's going to go, fitting all these decals and cutting them all out. Yes, right, let's crack on, get it done, because it's not going to do itself. Right, the first thing we've got to do is cut out all the canards. That can take you quite a while. Also, it comes with a dust cover that goes over the chassis, so you've got to trim all that up. The wheel arches all need to be sanded down, so it does take quite a while to get everything ready for paint. Right, that's everything sanded up. What we're going to do now is wash everything to get rid of all that fixing agent. Just a little bit of washing up liquid, maybe not quite as much as this, and then give it a good scrub. Get all the foam into all the areas, then a quick wash down, then you want to leave it to dry. You can use a paper towel, lint-free one if you've got it, just to dab everything down, make sure you get it as dry as possible. But I do recommend leaving it for a while. What I did is go and cut out the window masks while it's drying. Fitting the window mask to this car is not that difficult at all, didn't really have any issues. The only thing that's slightly challenging is the front headlights, as you use 2 window masks, one along the top, one along the bottom. But I did the standard technique that I usually do, where I cut a small portion of the actual window mask away, then line it up, press it down, and then feed it across, and then you can get it all nice, exactly how you want it. Now we're finally ready to paint, so we're going to paint it white. As while that was being painted, I also painted the dust covers black and all the little extra bits that needed to be black as well. Now I let everything dry. I cut out all the decals at the same time just to save a bit of time. Now we're putting the dust cover together. I actually used double-sided sticky tape, then drilled through and then bolted it up. it actually only really requires 2 bolts on each side, but there's 3 dimples. Now, one thing I did differently on this one is I actually did the black on the outside. This is mainly to save time. I wasn't sure if I'm going to end up being a shelf queen or whether it's going to end up being driven. I honestly don't know. So I decided to do the black on the outside. Now, the advantage to this is it's less prep work, but you've got to be a little bit careful as it scratches a bit easier. Then I put the massive spoiler together, started doing all the lights, the canards, get all the wing mirrors done while the actual body's drying off. Now, it does look a bit of a mess, but when you remove the protective film, it'll all make sense. Obviously, I had to smoke the windows as well. I did 3 layers of smoke, didn't want to black it out too much, that's what I kind of go to. As you can see, removing the protective film, it all kind of starts to come together. Now we're finally at the point where we can cut out all the decals, and that's the biggest challenge of doing a rally body like this. There is a lot of decals and it does take a good few hours to cut everything out. What I do when I cut them out is I leave the number attached to them and then remove it just before I fit it on the car. If you cut that off, it'll take you twice as long to figure out what part goes where, especially with these more complicated liveries. One thing that's a bit strange about this car is the actual front lip that you can see now. It has extra stickers that go across it to give you this illusion of being a different angle, which was really strange and it threw me, but I kind of like it as it is, so I think I'll leave it. So now we start fitting all those decals and they all have to line up with one another. Little tip for you here, if you've got a decal that has a see-through part, fit it as normal, then trim it out and you can remove it, because you do get a bit of a texture even if it's just a clear bit of a decal sheet. Also, it was the same on the rear windows. I trimmed out the middle bit, just gets rid of that orange peel feel and it just looks more professional. I decided to change out the wheels, so I had these in my parts bin. The actual body has massive arches, so you want to get those wheels as far out as possible just to give you a better stance. But all in all, super chuffed with it. It was a real challenge, many hours of getting all the decals right. It's not finished, but I'm almost there. So after many hours, I'm very close to being finished, and yeah, really happy with it. Definitely worth pushing through and getting it finished. The one thing that definitely threw me was the whole front end. It's a bit of a strange one. When I got it, obviously I bought the body set. I didn't buy the whole TT02 kit for this because I wanted to put it on my XV-02. The actual front section has a lip that runs all the way along, but when you look at it from an image point of view, it looks like it's got these side vents cut into the front. Turns out that's just a total optical illusion done by these decals. It's not actually like that. I guess they did it to make it look more aggressive along the front, but I thought I had the wrong body, and it definitely threw me because there's a new version of this coming out that does have a flat front on it as well. So I was like, did I get the wrong body with the wrong decals? And then when I went to look, it wasn't like the new one that's coming out because it has all these parts on the like air vent bits at the back. So I was like, what's going on? So I posted up a comment on the RCKicks Facebook group, and then a few of you pointed out, no, it's just decals, and sure enough, it is. I was going to leave them off, but I've decided to put them on, and yes, it does make the front look a little bit more aggressive, so I can kind of see why they did it. And it does actually look like it's got these little slices cut into the bonnet, even though it's just a decal. So there you go, bit of a strange one. Caught me out. The kit rims that come with this, they are way too narrow. This body is really wide. It has a very big stance and it's got these kind of squared off arches, so you need to put big deep dish wheels in it, which is the ones I had in my part bin. Whether I'll keep these ones or whether I'll change them to something else, I don't know. They're definitely better than the kit ones for sure, but maybe I can find something that kind of suits this a bit more. There's those aero wheels on the front that I've seen a few photographs of this with the aero wheels on the front. That looks really nice, so maybe I'll copy that and go down that road. Also, maybe I'll fit a cockpit in it. Should be quite easy. The actual dust cover that comes on the XV-02 is totally flat along the top, so putting a full cockpit in this shouldn't be too difficult at all. Doing all the extra dust cover for the XV-02 does take up a lot more time. Now, I'm not too sold on whether it's actually going to keep out tons of dirt or not. It looks great from the sides and the rear, but the front where the servo goes in for the XV-02 kind of leaves a big gap in the middle, so I'm not sure. But then the wheel arches at the front may stop dirt from flicking up inside. We'll just have to see. Now, I haven't decided whether this is going to be a shelf queen or whether I'm actually going to run it. So what I've decided to do is I'll still get it all ready to be run, and then when it's dry, I'm going to take it out, drive it around and see how it feels. And whether I really enjoy driving it, then it will become a runner. If I'm not that bothered and it doesn't do anything for me more than my TC-01, which I have as a rally car already, then I'll just keep that one and just run that, and then this will be a shelf queen. There's no point in having two rally cars that I can run, as I'll only end up running one. So whether it will be this one, maybe it will become this one, and then I'll re-clean up and reset my TC-01 and put a new rally body on that one or some other body. I just don't know. I'm honestly not sure. There is a few things I need to order. I've got to order a servo for it. Tyres, I'm not sold on these block tyres that come with the XV-02. They don't look very realistic, so I will try and find some more realistic rally tyres to go on it, which is kind of why I've left the body posts a little bit longer, because I want to get the stance right, but also the stance for a shelf is different for a stance to drive. So I've left the posts a little bit longer to give me a little bit more wiggle room, as once I start messing with the tyres and the ride height and then driving it, I might have to adjust it. So that's why I haven't cut them right down sharp to the body like I normally do. I'm going to order some metal window wipers. This car would definitely scream out for those. Then I'll black out this section here and actually have proper window wipers, just to add another level of detail, maybe an exhaust as well. Now, I've got disc brake hexes on these. I definitely recommend doing those on all your rally cars. It just again lifts the realism of it. I've got to order another set, as I borrowed them to put on this to show you the finished product, but I will order some more so I can actually fit them on the car permanently. Whether it's a shelf queen or driver, they're definitely worth looking into as they look the part. I wish someone would do it that you can have the caliper as well and you can actually mount it in place so the disc goes through the middle of it. Some mistakes and some tips for you. The first mistake was, don't forget to put the daylight running sticker in the headlights before you fit the headlights, because that's what I did. I left it out. I did the actual light, but not the daylight running light. And once you attached it, I didn't want to rip it all off again because I'm worried that it'll start to fall off and it'd just be a faff. So I didn't mind. They look fine, and you wouldn't know unless I told you and you looked at it. So I'm happy with that. But just to be mindful, don't do what I did. Another little tip which I found, the actual red that goes over the arches needs to line up, and to get everything to true up, it gave me a bit of a gap. So I've got to go back and I've got to sort the arches out a little bit just to true them up to the decals, just to make them look a bit more professional. But I'll do that after I've got the correct tyres, because obviously if I do it for these and then I put slimmer tyres on, it won't look right. So getting the stance right is important. Another big tip that I would recommend, especially if you're going to be driving this one, and it's a bit of a strange one, it's to do with this side decal at the bottom. Now, as you can see, it's red at the back and black at the front, but Tamiya asks you to do this whole section in black. I would personally, thinking about it after looking back on it, I would buy red from Tamiya's PS collection and I would paint that section in red. I wouldn't use these 4 stickers. Because of where it is and the way that it has a lip going over it, it's very fragile and it's very finicky. There's lots of joins, and once you get a bit of water in there, these are just going to come off and it would be a real faff. And I'm not overly sold when you start looking really closely at them, and over time they'll start to peel. So it's definitely worth doing the front section in black and the back section in red. But mainly it's the red. Why they didn't actually ask you to do this bit red, because most of the black is a sticker. And black is much more forgiving as well, because if you've got a black marker, you can fill in with a permanent pen and it just hides a lot more of your sins, whereas the red doesn't. Apart from that, the rest of the livery goes together really well. And I did really like these ones. that come all the way across here, as they've added the door lines in for you. So that's a nice little detail that I really liked. And the way that it comes up and over the top, they made it really easy to line up. So that was a definite plus. All in all though, super chuffed. There isn't a great deal of options for the XV-02, but this is one I can recommend if you've got a couple of days to set aside and you don't mind doing hundreds of decals. So in an upcoming video, we will run it on tarmac when it's dry, just to get a feel for it. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. See you on the next one.